Here's a couple of guys who have a couple of questions that they think atheists can't answer.
Hi everyone, so today we will be making a video discussing 2 questions that an atheist can't answer. But before we get started, we just want to ask you guys to please leave a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and please also share this video with a friend. And please leave a comment and let us know what you think.
Goodness gracious, boys, do you have to wear the same outfit? You make me feel like I'm about to run into you in the hallway of a haunted hotel.
So before we get started in this video, I just want to tell you why we are making this video. Now, a lot of atheists claim that they have all the science on their side and they have all the facts on their side and they don't require any faith. We are Christians and the Christians are the ones who are just believing in God with blind faith. But that is not true. It actually requires more faith to be an atheist, because they have these major questions that they wrestle and struggle with and don't have answers for, and we as Christians do have the answers for these major questions.
Why does not having the answers to some questions require faith? What do you think faith is? Struggling with questions doesn't seem like faith. Just believing in an answer to a question without putting any effort into scrutinizing it is faith. I can't think of anything farther from faith than not having made up your mind at all about something.
So the first question is, where did life come from?
And the answer is chemicals. All organisms are entirely made of chemicals, and life itself is nothing but chemical reactions, so the simplest inference is that life came from chemicals and chemical reactions. We don't know all the details of exactly what chemicals reacted in what way, but all the evidence points to it being an essentially chemical event.
Now, the famous scientist and atheist Richard Dawkins said the following. We'll play a clip.
Here they show that clip of Ben Stein asking Dawkins how life began, and Dawkins saying that nobody knows for sure, but one possible explanation is that it came from another planet somehow. When Dawkins said this, it was like giving gold to creationists, because they love to spin it as though this is what evolutionary biologists actually believe, rather than being one hypothesis among many, and far from the hypothesis which is considered most credible.
So even one of the most famous atheists and scientists believe that life had to come from another form of life, and he described that as being aliens.
No, he didn't say that life had to come from another form of life, let alone from aliens. His exact words were that it could be the case that life on Earth came from an alien civilization, not that it had to.
Now this just shows that life had to come from life, and that's why we as Christians believe that life had to come from God, because you believe that life could come from aliens. Then the question is, who created those aliens, and who created those aliens? The question just continues to go on. So to say that there had to be an infinite being who has been eternal forever and who will be eternal forever because he is eternal makes more sense than to say that aliens brought life to Earth.
Well, not if this eternal being that supposedly created life is a timeless, spaceless, disembodied mind, as many apologists describe God as being. Aliens are a far more recognizably coherent explanation than that.
Now, firstly, atheists have to put faith in not knowing an answer to this question, and secondly, they have to have faith that it can be anything. It can be aliens. They don't even know the answer to this question. But as Christians, all we have to do is put faith in God, because the Bible says that God breathed life into Adam. You see, God is the one who put life into humans. So as Christians, we have the answer to this question, that life came from God. And all we have to do is put faith in God.
Perhaps it is easier for you to just will yourself into believing what the Bible says than it is to actually question whether what it says is really the case, or design experiments to investigate the origin of life, but that doesn't make it the best approach. I see no reason to think that just having faith in God produces a high probability that you are believing the truth.
Now, atheists, they don't know what to put faith in, but they have to put faith in something, and they're putting the faith in saying that they don't know. They're putting their faith in not having an answer for this question.
How do you put faith in not having an answer to a question? I thought faith was a kind of belief. Now even withholding judgment is faith? This is like the opposite of a no true Scotsman fallacy. Rather than arbitrarily restricting a definition to reject counterexamples, as a no true Scotsman argument does, it arbitrarily expands the definition of faith in order to reject any counterexample to the common apologist talking point that being an atheist requires faith. Now, apparently, even being an agnostic atheist requires faith. How are you putting your faith in something but not having any opinion or belief about it?
And if you talk to an atheist, the common excuse they often will give you is, oh well, we didn't know yet. Later on, science will have an answer.
It's probably true that science will have an answer to the question of how chemicals came to life, but I don't have faith that it's the case because I don't know for sure.
But to say that we don't know is a form of faith, because you don't know if it's going to be revealed to us in 1,000 years. Let's say that God isn't real.
That's precisely what makes it the opposite of faith. Even if someone believes that science will probably come up with an answer to how chemicals came to life, that's not faith. It's an inductive inference based on the history of how many mysteries science has already solved.
So it really takes more faith to be an atheist and to say that maybe aliens created life than to say I put my faith and trust in an eternal God creating life.
How does saying that maybe aliens created life take more faith than believing that a God of no recognizable coherence created life?
Now that you mention it, one thing that I heard, and I think it's so true, and it is that I believe that the God of an atheist is time. Because whenever they don't have an answer, they just say, well, give us more time, then we'll have the answer.
I don't say that because I don't know for sure that we'll have the answer. You know why? Because I don't have any faith that time will give us enough of an opportunity to produce one.
When they look at evolution and they see the pieces don't match up, how can the earth be so old? They just add more time. They don't know how everything could have happened. So why is there God? They explained it by saying, give us more time, and there had to be more time for everything to develop the way that it did.
Why is that not a simpler and therefore more probable mechanism than miraculous intervention? Miraculous intervention requires us to make an extra assumption, namely that a God exists.
Yes, and that leads us to the second question that an atheist can't answer is, what created everything? How did the universe come to be?
I don't think it did come to be. I think it has always been. The universe is everything that exists within this space-time continuum, including space and time themselves. So whenever there has been time, there has been a universe. There has never been a time when the universe did not exist. Even if time itself only stretches back 13.7 billion years, and the evidence seems to show this to be the case, there has never been a time when the universe did not exist because time is part of the universe. Something cannot come to be if it already exists. And there has never been a time when the universe did not already exist.
And if this question can't be answered by an atheist, all they say is, well, there were billions of years ago, and the most common answer that you get is the Big Bang. Now, the Big Bang doesn't make any sense, because how can something come from nothing?
The Big Bang Theory doesn't say that something came from nothing. There has never been nothing. There has never been a time when at least time itself did not exist.
And then you have to also give an answer to what was there before the Big Bang. What caused the Big Bang? How did the Big Bang start? Because you can't have or create the Big Bang when there has been nothing before the Big Bang.
So then how did God create the universe out of nothing?
So then you have to answer also the question, before the Big Bang, what was there? Because if there was nothing, or even if there was something, why out of being there forever before the Big Bang did it suddenly choose to form and explode into the Big Bang?
The Big Bang is simply the earliest moment in the universe's constant expansion. As best as we can tell, this expansion has always been occurring and thus does not need a cause. The answer to the question, what happened before the Big Bang, is that the evidence points to it being a nonsensical question. We can't say that time extends backwards past the Big Bang. It might be the case that asking what happened before the Big Bang is like asking what's north of the North Pole.
And another great fallacy about this is how can order come from disorder? That is literally impossible. If I take something and I break it, let's say for example I take a glass and I break it, a whole universe won't start. Or let's say something small, a plant cannot be created if I break a glass. Something of order cannot come from something of disorder. That is scientifically impossible. So for atheists to believe that, they are rejecting science.
It's not true that order can't come from disorder. Order can result from disorder as long as the net level of order in the universe still decreases. The net level of order in the universe has never increased. This argument assumes that the Big Bang was some kind of disordered event. It wasn't. It followed the laws of physics in just as orderly a way as anything else. And since the net level of entropy was lower then than it is now, since net entropy always increases over time, the Big Bang was a far more ordered time on the whole than the time we're living in now. There are pockets of increased order, like life, but life is only possible due to the physical processes like the sun's nuclear fusion and our body's own metabolic systems, which increase entropy, and thus decrease order, far more than life constitutes an increase in order.
Yes, definitely. And so what this question basically tells us is that yes, an atheist can say to you, well, the Big Bang created everything.
The Big Bang did not create everything. The most fundamental elements of the universe have always existed. They were never created because there has never been a time when they didn't already exist.
But an atheist will never be able to answer what was there before the Big Bang, because they can't answer how did or what happened that out of forever before the Big Bang that these things would suddenly form the Big Bang, and then they can't answer what these particular substances were that caused the Big Bang, because it simply is impossible.
The answer is that the Big Bang is the earliest moment of the universe's expansion, which has always been happening and thus does not need a cause.
It's more reasonable to say that God created everything than to say that the Big Bang created everything.
That's not what the Big Bang theory says, but even if it were, if it's unreasonable to say that the Big Bang created everything because we don't know what substances it created everything with, then why is it not unreasonable to say that God created everything, since you can't say what substances God created everything with? Again, I don't believe that the universe was created out of nothing, because I don't believe that there ever has been nothing. But if God can create everything out of nothing, why couldn't the Big Bang?
And again, it comes to the point that they say that time is their God. Time is really their God, because they would say, well, just give it time, just give it billions of years, and then you will see everything fall into place. Now, the Bible gives us an answer, and that is why it requires so much less faith to be a Christian than to be an atheist. And that is, in the Bible, it says, in the beginning, God.
These dudes seem to think that the more vapid an explanation is, the less faith it requires. They have the weirdest concept of faith I have ever heard.
We see when we read the creation narrative, we see that in the beginning, God created everything. We have an answer to this very important question. Now, this isn't just some small question that you can later find an answer to. This is a huge and massive question that atheists have to answer in order for them to say that they are only based on facts and scientific evidence, because it really looks like they are not when I look at the evidence and when I look at the facts.
What does just looking at the Bible and saying, yup, that's how it happened, have to do with facts and evidence? You're not even comparing that claim to any evidence. And if your view were more consistent with facts and evidence, then why would you need to have any faith at all? To everyone who helps me out on Patreon, you're a big help. Thanks so much.